Harvey's Hot Takes. I'm going to walk from this side of the expansive Studio 9 to my usual Hot Takes seat to chat with my friend Bryan Hayes, not once but twice on the show. Here he is. He looks fantastic. A beautiful maple syrupy brown tan after a luxurious vacation with his family that he absolutely deserved. Bryan, first of all, I want to start this segment by showing you a tweet that our mutual friend Pierre LeBrun sent during the first period of Saturday's game between Canada and the United States. He says, anyone out there still thinking the Four Nations was going to be a glorified all-star game? Okay, just checking. I feel like that tweet might have been directed at me personally. I feel that tweet might have been directed at you personally, Bryan. Here's my question for you. Would you like to respond to it? Do you have anything to say to Mr. LeBrun?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I would like to respond to it. And I felt the same way as you did, Jay, because I'm sure you're like me. And I interpret every tweet on Twitter or on X as if it's personally directed towards me. Right. I have that big of an ego that I look at every tweet and I'm like, okay, is this about me? And I think it was. And guilty as charged, right? I was all over TSN for weeks saying I'm skeptical of what this was going to look like. I did not know if it was going to be animated, energetic, if there was going to be a ton of energy on the ice and pugnacity and fighting and hitting and all that kind of stuff. And I was wrong. And I credit the players for that. But I will counter our good friend Pierre LeBrun. And I love Pierre. He's a dear friend of mine. I'm pretty certain Pierre has been a part of the get fighting out of the game crowd for quite some time. And I don't believe I saw a tweet from Pierre saying I hated the first 9 seconds on Saturday night at the Bell Center. And I think those fights defined what I was curious about. Are they going to literally and figuratively fight this out to win the Four Nations face-off? And I credit the players because they proved that that's exactly what's going to happen. And credit to the NHL, credit to the PA, but again, ultimately credit to the players because I was uncertain. Will they block that shot? Will they throw that hit? Will they drop the gloves? Will they feel as if they truly lost something if they don't win this tournament? And I think we have our answer now. And it all culminated Saturday night. I think it will really pop on Thursday in Boston. And it's a combination of so many different things, as you know, what's happening politically on both sides of the border. Montreal, the Bell Center on a Saturday night, you just simply can't beat it. But it's also the players sending a message back to the league that it's a joke we haven't had best on best international hockey for a decade. And this new generation that features the Tkachuks and Bennett and Hagel and Parayko and Miller, they have been itching for this for a long, long time. And they showed up and they put it all on the line. And I think it sets up for a beautiful game on Thursday night that is going to have meaning. And ultimately, every event has to have it, right? You juxtapose this week in the NHL to what's happened in the NBA. The reason the All-Star game in the NBA is a joke is because the players don't care. And they've made it very, very clear. So why would the fans care? And I think I was sitting here, and I know I wasn't alone, wondering, will the players care? They proved to me on Saturday, Canada, U.S., they did. I believe they will double down on that in Boston on Thursday night, and I cannot wait. So Pierre and anyone else, you got me. I was wrong on this. The tournament's been incredible. I cannot wait for the championship game.
So then my next question for you, Bryan, is which specific player do you think is under the most pressure to deliver in that final on Thursday night?
I think from a Canadian perspective, it has to start with Jordan Binnington for me, Jay, because the goaltending, it's in such a dark place, in the country right now. In terms of the NHL level talent, it's the worst goaltending generation on paper we've ever had. We've been incredibly fortunate throughout my lifetime, right, with Waugh and Price and Belfour and Luongo and Brodeur, and you go down the list, and now we're looking at a situation here where Binnington, Hellebuck is David versus Goliath on paper in terms of what they're capable of doing. And yet Binnington, the reason he continues to get this opportunity is because he has proven in the big game he shows up. He did it 6 years ago when St. Louis went into this building against Boston in Game 7, and he was lights out and he won a Stanley Cup. And that's what they're banking on here. The group stage is irrelevant. Who cares if he gave up leaky goals? They made it to this game. That's all that's mattered. So for me, it would start with Jordan Binnington because of the nature of the position and because of all the anxiety that has kind of hovered around that conversation and that position in the country the last 12 to 18 months, and will undoubtedly continue into next year when we get to the Olympics. But moving aside from Binnington, if you'll allow me to throw one more guy in, I do think you got to go to McDavid. You got to go to Connor McDavid because the last time we saw him with a spotlight like this was Game 7 of the Cup final, and I didn't think he played very well. He did not have a game that popped. He needs legacy-defining games. He's worthy of it, right? His predecessors who have held that generational talent type level in terms of title, like Crosby, did it in 2010. Gretzky and Lemieux did it in 87 and elsewhere. He's got to have that kind of moment. What has been proven here is this tournament is going to be remembered. The game on Saturday night and the game tomorrow night, Connor McDavid's got a lot of pressure. He is the best player in the world. He's the best player on the ice tomorrow night. Nobody's better. Go out there and play like it, have a great night, lead this team to a championship, and it's just a huge, huge mark in terms of positivity for his legacy.
Bryan, who wins on Thursday night?
I'm going with Canada. I'm going to go with Canada here. I don't think you're beating this team twice. And full credit to the Americans. It is a coin flip, undoubtedly. Obviously, the U.S. played great on Saturday. They've been very good throughout this tournament. On paper, they're loaded. Their defense is great. Hellebuck's outstanding in net. But again, I mentioned a guy like McDavid. I look at a guy like Sid going into a game like tomorrow night. I'm not betting against Sidney Crosby. No chance. This guy never loses. Never loses when he's wearing that Canadian jersey. He did Saturday in Montreal. I think he takes offense to that. I think he shows up with a big, big game. And again, I still believe Canada is the powerhouse. I still believe they're the best team. Full credit to the Americans. They checked them very well. I think it's going to be very difficult to do that twice. I don't think you're holding McDavid, McKinnon, Sid, and everyone else down the line, including Cale Makar, in the lineup for this game, which is very significant because he wasn't on Saturday night. I'm betting on Canada rolling into Boston, quieting that crowd, and winning the Four Nations face-off.